Hello, you guys. Thank you all for jumping on. So this time I'm going to have you guys, because I realized after the last call, if you guys type here in the chat, I get a copy of all the chats, so then you won't have to say that you watched it live. So just right here in the little chat box, and that will be your record of while watching this live. Good morning. How are you guys all doing with all this craziness? How are you guys adjusting to online school? Are you guys liking it, or is it kind of crazy, or are you guys liking the online school situation? I mean, I'm sure it's not that fun to not be able to see all your friends and all that, but I'm guessing you guys are probably able to adapt pretty well to online school. Thank you guys for staying here. So we have quite a few people jumping on, which is awesome. So yeah, go ahead and type here if you are here watching. It's much easier for me to record that you are watching it live. And I've got a couple of announcements. So I'll wait a couple more minutes to see if anybody else is going to hop on. I have a good crowd in here. So first off, good job on doing that quiz through the AP Classroom. I know a lot of people wrote me emails. We're having technical difficulties logging in and stuff like that. But I think most people got that figured out. There's a couple of people I know who had technical difficulties and weren't able to do it, but I would say that was like only like 2 or 3 people that applied to. So good job on that. One question that I have is, once you're done and you've submitted it, can you see your grade on that? Oh, let me, hold on, turn this off because it's going to be craziness. Okay, so you guys cannot see your grades. Okay, so I can see them. I had to turn off the grading so that you would just see all the answers and then share those with your friends. I just didn't know if when you submitted it, you could see. Okay, so I will record those and load those in Aries so that you can see them. Most people did well. I'm glad that everybody was able to get on there and kind of figure that out. Was that pretty straightforward on your end, seeing the quiz? I'm sure you just log in and go for it. Was that part okay? I'm hoping so, since we've done it before. Okay. If you haven't already, on Instagram, follow the College Board. They're updating their Instagram and sharing some information. So I followed them too. And so they are, as far as I know, they're coming out with information today. So this might get updated later today. They are rewriting the test to not include quite everything. It's supposed to include most of the stuff people should have been able to get through March. They are going to be doing live videos and things, reviews for students, and kind of another just way to review to help students along. I know they're starting at certain times throughout the day. So this applies to all your different AP classes. You can look at a certain time. They're doing, I'm not sure what interface they're using to do it, but I know they're doing like a live, I don't know, teaching you a new topic. I think it's Eastern time though, so 2 to 2:45 for AP Stats, and they're doing it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The topic that they're covering this week, as far as what I could see, the topics that they were doing are the next chapter that we're doing. So we're going to finish up chapter 13 pretty much today. What their topics that they're teaching are chapter 14. So I wanted to ask you guys, would you guys rather, and I mean, you can watch both, so you don't have to choose one or the other. Would you guys rather me teach you chapter 14 kind of like through this, like video notes on like a live call, or would you rather just go and watch the AP Central, whatever teacher they have doing that and teaching you through those couple hours? Okay, so I would be glad to keep teaching you. I just didn't know if it was easier for you guys to get that information that way. Okay, thank you, Matt. But feel free to watch those to see if you know, you get an insight into where we're going or what they're doing ahead of time. I mean, we all teach the same stuff, just in different ways. So feel free to watch those. At least this week, I know is what chapter 14 is that we will be covering. As they move forward, I don't know if they're going to be providing extra reviews or things like that, which would be awesome for all of us to go and participate in, because obviously the people that they've chosen to do this either are writers of the tests or people who have a say in what goes on the test, so they're important people to listen to, so that would be a good thing too. They said they were going to reduce the material to what most students would have covered by March, but they're going to include chapter 14. We had one more chapter after that, but I'm guessing that will be, and it was like a mini chapter, we did it in like 2 days. I'm guessing most of that material will not be on there if they're teaching on the chi-squared. So yeah, just wanted to let you know that we have that. And so my plan was to kind of do a proportions quiz. We'll do proportions notes today. Friday, we'll go over any questions you guys had. We'll do a proportions quiz next week. And then I'll do some sort of just assessment of all those questions mixed together for your chapter 13 test. So we have an assessment for that. I'm not quite sure what that will look like. I know on the free response, I mean, I can give you free response questions just like the multiple choice was. It's just really hard to type all that stuff up and to show your work in a helpful manner. So we'll see what happens. I'll let you guys know what I decide on that. And I think before I told you, a lot of the other classes at school are going to what's called Ingenuity. It's like an online platform. Like my Algebra 1 students will be going on that. And maybe some of you have gotten login information. We're kind of trying to figure that out on the fly. So by the end of this week, you should have information on that for whatever class you're in. However, they do not have an AP statistics course at all, which I'm kind of glad for. At this point, we're just going to keep doing what I've been doing and just teaching you through videos and then having you upload. I mean, I do wish there was some online homework I could give you, but we're just going to keep going with the worksheets and uploading an image of your completed worksheet. So we're just going to kind of make that work and go with that. So I'm not choosing to not be on that platform. They don't have AP Stats at all. So that's why we won't be doing that for that. So just in case you guys had questions on that. Are there any questions of stuff that's come up that I have not answered for you guys or you have questions on at this point? So feel free to comment in the chat if there's stuff you want me to address right
now. Is there any chance that we might be able to see our grades for the previous chapter test? Because I thought like the other class got to see theirs, and I just wasn't sure if ours was going to be in or not.
Thank you for that. I just need to somehow find time to grade them. I finished period 3 before we left on Friday with every intention to just finish period 5. I haven't done that, so that's totally my fault. I will get those up there. I will make it a point to do that this week and finish grading. It's just craziness in our house with our 3 children and homeschooling them. Same with your projects that you guys turned in the week before we left. So you'll have another grade in your project category. Those were all turned into the Google Classroom. So I have those on my list to do right now to get all that stuff graded and put in the gradebook. I have access to Aries from home, so I will update that. And I'm sorry for period 5 who was like left hanging on that. So I will take care of that. Thank you for that question, Sohail.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other, sorry if my internet goes, I don't know what's going on with that. Getting these like little pop-ups. Can you post a video? Yes, so it's recording right now, so I will, just like the other one, I will upload it to YouTube and post it in the Google Classroom. Those of you who are watching it live do not have to rewatch it. I have, if you're here and you've typed here or some comment in the chat, I have record of you being here. However, not everybody can watch that live, or their technology is troublesome, or they only have so many computers at home. So it will be posted in the Google Classroom to watch again. Yeah, so those of you who popped on later, just make sure you write here in the chat so that I have a record of who's here. Awesome. Yeah, because you guys don't need to rewatch it, you're here. New material learn online will be on the, yes, it will be on the AP exam. It will for sure be on the AP exam. That's why we're still learning. So far I know, based on what the AP Central is sharing for stats, that chapter 14 will also, that we haven't covered, we will cover, be on the AP exam as well. So yes, chapter 13, unfortunately, the chapter we're in right now, is super important for the AP exam and is definitely on there quite a bit. So yeah, I think I got that question. Are there any other questions that I missed? Okay. Yeah, but I'm excited. AP, if you missed that, on Instagram, I would follow the College Board. They are rewriting the tests. They're making them shorter. Instead of an hour and a half, they're down to 45 minutes. I'm guessing they're cutting some of the material as well as just how long it is. So I'm guessing the multiple choice originally was going to be 40 questions. I'm guessing for you to finish it in 45 minutes, they might cut it in half, is what I'm guessing. I don't have the exact number on that yet. So that might happen. And then same with the free response, is supposed to be 45 minutes. So instead of being 6 questions, which we haven't, I mean, normally in class we would have had time to talk about all this in person prior to the test, but here we are. So instead of 6 full free response questions, I'm guessing there may be 3. I don't know how it's going to be graded. I'm guessing very similar. All of this is changing, so follow the College Board, and hopefully we can get more information as we continue in this process. But they have said that they're going to make it available so you can still test. Yay, we're like this point in the year. I'm so glad that you guys get to still have your credit for this. So that's a big win for us. Yes, Meth, I think you jumped on right when I was talking about that. So the live streams, they are talking, as far as the schedule for this week, they are doing chapter 14, which I was going to be covering through this type of video notes situation. So feel free to watch that. It is just slightly in front of us. So that is chapter 14. But yes, they have like 45-minute lessons this week. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So feel free to watch those. I will still teach chapter 14 as well. But I think that's kind of where the curriculum is ending. We did have chapter 15, but it's very short. So I'm guessing they're just cutting that. And as far as I can tell, we'll cover through chapter 14. Okay. Good. Okay. So as I find out more information about what they're offering, that I will pass that along to you. I'm also guessing that the AP exams will most likely be through that platform that we are doing the quizzes in the AP classroom, because everybody this year had to register for that, which is great now at this point. So make sure that technology is working for you so that you can test through that. So I'm just guessing. I don't know that at this point, but I'm guessing that that is what will happen. Okay. If you think of more questions, type them in the chat. But let's get to this, so we're not on here forever. So comparing 2 proportions. So I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is the most annoying checks and all sorts of stuff of all of the things, this is the worst. So next chapter, it doesn't get worse. I can tell you that. It's easier. So this is like the peak of terrible conditions. So we'll just get that out of the way because that's just what it is. All right, so proportions, again, we have 2 samples, and so we've got just the subscripts for 1 and 2, population proportion, sample size, and sample proportion. So the center of subtracting the sample proportions should be the center of our sampling distribution if we subtract them. Okay? How we find the variance for this, this is kind of like the proof of how we get there. You don't really need to know that if you don't want to, but I always find it comes from all the formulas that we know. So 1 standard deviation is, that's really big, p times 1 minus p over n. We are combining those, so we square it, add it together, and then take the square root. Okay, so the rules of variance are applying to the means and the proportions, so that's kind of why we learn all that stuff. So here is our standard deviation. Oh, I cannot draw a straight line to save my life right now. This thing for our proportions. That's like the standard standard deviation that we're going to be using for that. Somebody's microphone is on, so maybe we can turn that off. Okay, so the shape 1 samples are large. The distribution will be approximately normal. The sampling distribution of p hat 1 minus p hat 2 will be approximately normal. If the sampling distributions of both p hat 1 and p hat 2 are approximately normal. So what that means is that we can check them individually. We don't have to check them by subtracting them. So we check them individually, which is actually much better for us. Move some of this stuff around here. And so to check that, we're doing n times 1 times p1, n times 1, or n1, sorry, 1 minus p1, and then doing that again for n2. It is best if these values are all greater than 10, but as long as the values are at least 5, we can kind of move forward. So some of them may be lower than 10 when we check all of them. So just, it's okay if like one of them is too low, but it should be at least greater than 5. So the first thing we're going to start off with is confidence intervals. And if you remember, confidence intervals are, when we did them for proportions, we don't know p. So we're switching and we're using p hat. So with this section, you have to be real careful with the proportions. The confidence interval, the checks are going to be different than doing a test. So with our confidence interval, we don't know p, and we're using p hat in all of this stuff. Okay. So for confidence interval, we don't know p1 or p2, so we substitute p hat 1 and p hat 2 in our checks for normal, and also the standard error formula. So our confidence interval here for p hat 1 minus p hat 2 is subtracting those, plus or minus z star, which proportions are always z star, square root p hat 1, 1 minus p hat 1 over n1, p hat 2, 1 minus p hat 2 over n2. So make a note, we are using p hats since we don't know p. Okay. So again, that same little statement that we had, if you know p, you use p here. We're not going to know p when we're doing the confidence intervals. So they're p hats. We have the same basic conditions where we need simple random sample. So both the samples need to be simple random samples, and it's approximately normal. We are checking approximately normal by n1 p hat 1 and n1 1 minus p hat 1. It's such a mouthful blah, blah, blah for both those samples. And then we also have now that they're independent. The 2 samples must be independent. We've got 2 of them. Okay, so our first example, the article Freedom of What in the Associated Press, February 2005, described a study in which high school students and high school teachers were asked whether they agreed with the following statement. Students should be allowed to report controversial issues in their student newspapers without the approval of school authorities. It was reported that 58% of the student survey and 39% of the teacher survey agreed with that statement. The 2 samples, 10,000 high school students and 8,000 high school teachers, were selected from 544 different schools across the country. We would like to estimate the true difference between the proportion of high school students who agree and the proportion of high school teachers who agree. Construct and interpret a 90% confidence interval. All right. So for this, we have our 2 proportions. I'm just going to label them. So P1, and you can call this, it doesn't have to be 1 and 2. You could do like PS for students and PT for teachers. So P1 would equal like the student proportion who agree. But yeah, you can make that an S. It really doesn't matter what you label them, as long as they're labeled. And this will be the teacher proportion who agree. All right, and our conditions. It doesn't really say that they were random, but they selected 500. They were selected from schools all across the country. So we're going to assume the 2 samples of teachers and students from across the country. It is a simple random sample. And then to check for approximately normal, we're going to do, so the 10,000, times the proportion. So students is 0.58, be greater than or equal to 10. And then this times 0.42. And then we're also going to check n is greater, a capital N is greater than 10 times our sample size. So the population is greater than 10 times 10,000, so 100,000, which is true. Those are all high school students. And so we're going to check this. So yes, they're all going to be much greater. So 5,800 greater. Okay, and then we just have to do it again for N2. So we're going to have 8,000 times 0.39, and 8,000 times 1, and capital N is greater than 80,000, which is true. There's definitely more than 80,000 teachers. Okay, so we're going to multiply these out, which they're all clearly greater than 10. So it's no problem for all those. So yeah, unfortunately, we have to do that for 2 samples. All right, and so we're just going to say since all these checks work, and the distribution of the proportion of students and teachers who agree is approximately normal. Oh, thank goodness. Really, actually, you'd want to probably say are both, so that you're clear that you're showing two distributions are both approximately normal. All right, and then I'm going to write the formula. Oh, sorry, next one is that they're independent. So the opinions of students should be independent of teachers, as long as you can assume that the teachers haven't necessarily influenced the students on how to feel. So you can assume teacher and student opinion are independent. Okay, and with this, we're also doing a two-sample proportion confidence interval. It's really hard to write small on this thing, so sorry, my writing is terrible. Okay, so I'm going to write for our confidence interval, we're doing p hat 1 minus p hat 2 plus or minus z star square root, and then p hat 1 minus p hat 1 over n1. I'm just going to write the formula so that we get the hang of it. You don't always have to write this, but it's good practice when we first learn something new. Okay, so we got that. We're going to plug all the stuff in. So 0.58 minus 0.39 plus or minus z star. Do we remember that for 90%? Do we remember? Should be 1.645. And then we're going to plug these in. 0.58 over 2 over the 10,000 plus 0.3961 over 8,000. Okay, so I would do that whole right side in your calculator all at once. This will be 0.19 plus or minus. I'm guessing all of you are just going to sit there until I tell you the answer, but let's go ahead and enter that in your calculator. So this, double check that you got this. It should be 0.012. Again, the confidence intervals, the proportion values are going to be really small, so that's fine. And so this will be 0.178 to 0.202. Okay, so I'm going to just write our generic sentence that we've been writing forever. I am 90% confident that the true difference between the proportion of students who agree and teachers who agree is between 0.178 and 0.202. Okay. Any questions on that before we move on to, now we're going to just go over the testing. So yeah, the conditions are just kind of a pain. The actual work for confidence intervals, it's not that much more than we have been doing. but the conditions with doing it for each one, checking, there's just no shortcut to do that. You just have to check them. Okay, so for significance tests for comparing two proportions. So now we're moving on to the test. Okay, so we've got simple random sample. We need to still check normal and that it's independent. But for checking normal, this is the big change for this guy. We're going to be using what is called the combined proportion of successes. So we call it PC, P combined. And we're just checking that, and so we're going to check N1 times P combined and N2 times P combined to check this. So we're just using one proportion and testing it against both N. P combined is the total number of successes divided by the total N. So you're going to add, we'll do this for an example, but we're going to add them together for the total number of successes and then the total sample size. It's a little weird, but this is what you do just for the test, not for anything else. Okay, so to test the hypothesis, again, you can write it as P1 minus P2, or you can set them equal to each other. It doesn't matter. You're going to first find the combined proportion PC. Okay, so you're going to use that in the test. You have to find that. Use that in your checks, and then also we're going to use that here, as well as in your check for normal. And then we're going to do one-sided or two-sided tests. This is z-test. So we'll go over how to get there. Okay. So yeah, it's a little different. So here, some people believe that you can fix, okay, I do not make this up, fix anything with duct tape. Even so, some were skeptical when researchers announced that duct tape may be more effective and less painful alternative to liquid nitrogen, which doctors routinely use to freeze warts. The article, What a Fix-It, Duct Tape Can Remove Warts, described a study conducted by Magdalen Army Medical Center. Patients with warts were randomly assigned to either the duct tape treatment or the more traditional freezing treatment. Those in the duct tape group wore duct tape over the wart for 6 days, then removed the tape, soaked the area in water, and used an emery board to scrape the area. The process was repeated for a maximum of 2 months or until the wart was gone. Data from this experiment summarized in the table. Do the data suggest that freezing is less successful than the duct tape treatment in removing warts? Yeah. Okay. So, first, let's label what we're going to call P1 and P2. So, or you could, you could do PL for liquid and PD for duct tape. It doesn't, or PT, whatever you want to do. You don't have to do 1 and 2. Sometimes it makes more sense to label it with a variable so that you can kind of keep track of it in your head, but it really doesn't matter. So this will be the proportion successfully removed with liquid nitrogen. And then I'm going to use PT as the proportion successfully removed with duct tape. Again, you can label them 1 and 2, whatever you want to do. That part's really not important, just that you label them. The first thing that we want to find is the P combined. Okay, so P combined is the total number of successes divided by the total N. So the total number of successes is everything, in this case, that was successfully removed. So we're going to do 60 plus 88, which comes from the number right here that were successfully removed, divide by the total n, so 100 plus 104. Okay, so when you divide that, that'll be 0.725. So that's the proportion we're going to use in our test statistic and to do our checks. All right, so our null is that we want there to be no difference between these. So you can write that as P1 equals P2. Or sorry, we're doing L and T. You could also subtract them. Whatever you want to do is fine. The alternative is that we wanted data from this experiment. Does the data suggest that freezing is less successful than the duct tape? So here, it's kind of easier to see when you have them right next to each other. You can also do it this way, where this would be less than 0. The way I wrote it, you can always flip the proportions around so that the inequalities go the other way. That's fine. Our conditions. We don't quite have that it was a simple random sample, but they were assigned to 2 different treatments. And how were they assigned to the 2 treatments? It says they were randomly assigned to the treatments. So that's one of our conditions. Either the sample was randomly selected or they were randomly assigned to treatment. So we've got that. So we can say patients were randomly assigned to the 2 treatments. These should easily be independent of each other. Their results should be independent. Okay, and then we also have to check all the n times p combined. So we're going to do 100 times 0.725. And this is p combined is what we're using right here. Greater than or equal to 10. And then 100 times 1 minus 0.725. We also have to do it for the second n, which it's obviously going to work if it's larger. Okay, and then we're also going to check capital N is greater than 10 times our sample size, which is greater than 1,000 and greater than 1,040. So both of those are true. All right, so if you plug all this stuff in, it definitely works. 27.5. Okay, so they're all greater than 10. There's no way to shortcut that. It's just one of those things. But we can say, since all of these are true, both distributions of wart removal, I guess, are approximately normal. Okay, so we got all that stuff out of there, all done. The test statistic is a z test statistic, so we're going to take p hat 1 minus p hat 2. So that would be the 60 divided by 100, so 0.6, minus the 88 divided by 104. So that's actually going to be 0.85. But on the bottom, we're using p combined. So this would be 7.25, 0.275 out of 100. So use the first sample size. and do the same thing for the second one, but divide by the N2. So go ahead and see if you can calculate that, and I'll tell you the answer for those of you who are just going to sit there and wait for me anyway. Just go ahead and try that in your calculator. So this should come out to be negative 3.998, or really close to negative 4, depending on if you didn't use as many decimal places there. So then the p-value, the probability, I'm going to say my z is less than negative 3.998. Going to be normal CDF from negative infinity to that negative 3.998. Draw my little curve here, just a little bit of data. And this is going to be real, real small. I think you should get 3.2 times 10 to the negative 5. Yes, there's 4 zeros in front of that, very small. So we're going to decide to reject. So since our p-value is less than or equal to alpha, we're using 0.01, we're going to reject the null. So there is sufficient evidence to suggest that the proportion of warts successfully removed with freezing is actually lower than the proportion removed with duct tape. So the biggest thing with this is being able to remember the differences between what you're doing with the confidence intervals and those checks using p hat 1 and p hat 2, whereas with the test you end up using p combined and using that for your checks and then for your standard deviation. Oh, you're right. Thank you, Riley. Sorry, that is not 88. This should be 104. I don't know if my answer was still right. Was my answer wrong then too, or did I actually calculate it with 104? I think my answer was right. It should have been 104. I just wrote it wrong. Just looked at the wrong thing. But I think that answer is still right. Is that true? Anybody actually do it? I do it real quick. Yeah, the answer's right. Okay, but yeah, sorry, I just miswrote that. So that should be 104. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so I also, let's see, do you want to do another example? There's one more example in the notes. No. Anybody else have an opinion? We're good on that? Okay, yeah, it's kind of long and painful, but hopefully that will give you enough information to solve. It's just another proportion problem with that. Okay. But I do want to hop over and finish the outline. So while we're just on here, so grab your outline. I don't have it saved from the answers that we did before on the other video notes. So yours should be filled out Well, sorry guys, we're just jumping away from that. Are you just being difficult, Kyle? Okay. Yes, you are going to submit a picture of the filled out outline. I just haven't had you do that yet because we're not done with it. So I was going to wait until today we're done with the outline, and then I'll have you submit a picture of that completed. Okay. So we should have answered questions 1, 2, and 3, but for question number 4, how do you find P combined? So here, P combined is equal to your total success over your total N. Okay, so you add those together from your sample information. Oh my gosh, you guys are blowing up the chat. You're just ridiculous. Yes, I miss you too. Okay, so hypotheses for proportions, again, you can write them as P1 equals P2, or if you like minus, you can do that as well. I keep showing you both because the multiple choice on the AP exam, you could see both. It could be written either way. So even if you like one versus the other, you'll probably see both of them. So proportions, it'll be either greater than or less than or not equal to for the alternative. And so for this, would be a minus a proportion. And then again, you could do less than or not equal to. Okay, so for conditions, they're similar. We need both our simple random samples or randomly assigned. We need independent samples. And we need approximately normal. And here you're using N1 P combined greater than or equal to 10, N1 1 minus P combined, and then you're going to do that for N2. And then also check N is greater than 10 times N1 and N2. So it's just a lot of stuff you got to check. Okay, the test statistic is a Z test statistic. So we're having P hat 1 minus P hat 2 all over, again, you're using P combined. So P combined 1 minus P combined over N1 plus P combined 1 minus P combined over N2. Degrees of freedom, there are none for this situation. Here, we're going to be doing probability Z is greater than or less than something using normal CDF. And we're still checking if p-value is less than or equal to alpha, then we're rejecting. Okay, and then onto the backside, I did these separate because they're different for proportions. For means, it's like the same information. But for here, the 2 sample proportions, this is different than the test. Okay, so be very careful with this one. We again need 2 simple random samples or randomly assigned. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Chase. You're welcome. Okay, so hopefully you got all that. And then, so I can keep it kind of scroll up. or randomly assign 2 treatments. We need independent samples. And then here we are going to check approximately normal. But for this one, you're using N1 P1 hat greater than or equal to 10. And you're going to check all the things, but using N1 and, sorry, saying the wrong thing. You're using the P hat. So all of those things. And then the formula, you subtract the sample proportions, Z star, P hat 1, 1 minus P hat 1. So it's the same kind of outline, but you're using P hats. This information is also, if you are going to use the calculator in the stat tests, you can do a 2 sample or 2 proportion Z test, and you can input the correct values for the correct number of successes, your N, correct number of successes, and your N as well in the calculator. So you can still, if you found that helpful to use the calculator, you can do that as well for proportions for both the confidence interval and the test. Let me see. Yeah, automatically in the calculator knows to use the combined versus the P1 hats and P2 hats. So it already gets that right for you. All right, are there any questions for me on this or in general, or just questions that you have? Go ahead and type them in the chat. The homework you guys are going to have is a proportions worksheet. So I will upload that on my website as well as in the Google Classroom. It'll be due on Friday. So then you're going to upload a picture of the completed worksheet in the Google Classroom to get credit for that. And so please try to do this stuff on time. I really want to update your Aries with all of this stuff that you guys are getting credit for, but I'm having people who are like only now going back and watching like a video, or I don't know, just it's in everybody's best interest to try to do them up to speed. Would be very helpful. And yeah, if your printer isn't working, or you don't even have printer paper, I don't care if you do it on a piece of notebook paper, that's totally fine. You do not have to actually print the worksheets. If you want to, you can. Yes, this will be due Friday. And then Friday at 9:30, I'll do another live Zoom to answer any questions about proportions that you guys have. And then the following Monday, so next Monday, I'll have a quiz on the proportions. Same thing in the, yeah. And so next week, I'll also assign you guys some of the review worksheets and things like that as well, okay? Also, I have a whole bunch of stuff I was going to give you, but we left before I could give that to you. On stuff to review, and I have a whole flow chart of testing, all the testing procedures and all of that. So I'm going to make another like category for review, and this is just stuff that I find helpful. I'm also going to put like the formula sheet in there that you would be able to use on the AP exam. So if you want to print this stuff out, awesome. If you just want to look at it, that's fine. You do not have to print this out. This is more just stuff that I was going to give you, but we're not at school, so I'm not making copies for you. So I will put that in there. Oops. Anna, you can get my email on the school web pages, but I'll type it for you here. So yeah, you guys can email me if you are having difficulties or need stuff from me. But yeah, I am getting like swamped with emails from lots of stuff from school and all that. So feel free to write a comment in the Google Classroom and just say, hey, I emailed you, and I'll make sure I find it. So I've been trying to get back to everybody who has messaged me or emailed me. Okay, so if there are no other questions, I don't see any other questions popping up. Take care, stay healthy. You're welcome. I'm glad to see all of you guys in here. And we will then, I'll just chat with you guys on Friday. Thank you guys. Thank you. I'm trying to stay healthy. It's a little crazy in our household, but we're hanging in there. And just lastly, make sure you commented on something or said here for those of you who watched it live, so you can get credit for that in the chat. I'm glad it was helpful, Yi. All right, take care, you guys. I will talk with you guys on Friday. Social distance. There you go.